Well, good evening, everyone. And I'd like to first start by acknowledging this is unusual that our musicians have mostly evaporated. That is, I think, the most musicians we have ever had on stage for Story Night. So let's give a big hand to the Boise choruses. And they just had a concert this last Saturday in preparation for a couple of trips. Now, the women's chorus will get to go perform at Carnegie Hall. And the men's chorus gets to perform in Minnesota. So exciting. I love how equitable that seems. So nice, so nice. Well, welcome. I'm Jodi Eichelberger, the artistic director of Story Night, and your host this evening. Thank you. And tonight is our 14th birthday, if you can believe that. 14 years. This show began around this time in the Linen Building. I think the theme was Busted. That kind of works with Eject, I suppose. I want to also thank, of course, our season sponsor, the Chandro Group. Yes, thank you. And tonight, our show sponsor is a special one because the founder of it was involved with Story Night back a few years on our board. And that show sponsor is Finding Good. Yeah. And let's see, we are just, 25-30% of the way through as the cultural ambassador for the city of Boise, which is pretty exciting. We started that back in October. And so we're very grateful to the City of Boise and the Department of Arts and History. The mayor called and said, would you be our cultural ambassador? Because we really feel that Story Night represents everyday Boiseans and promotes inclusivity, celebrating the diversity of our human experience. And that's what the City of Boise wants to do. And storytelling is an important part of the city's mission to create a city for everyone. And so we want to let you know that you all belong here. So thank you for being here. Another special group, which we'll talk more about a little bit later. Where are my Story subscribers? Raise your hand if you're a Story subscriber. There's one in the front, there's some in the back, some over here. Wonderful. These are people who have monthly subscriptions that help sustain Story Night. In exchange for that, they get tickets to all of our live shows, and we love having them as our core group. But usually there are a number of first-time people at Story Night. Do I have some first-timers here tonight? Yes, I think you outnumber the Story subscribers. All right, so if you notice those hands for Story subscribers and you get confused at any point and you don't know what it is you came here to see, just turn to one of them and say, is this how it usually is? Or what's supposed to happen here? What's going on? And they'll help you out. Now, this is your first time here, so you are at the end of a 6-show season, which was all inspired by this. It's my old tape recorder. It has 6 buttons. And one day I thought, what else has 6 things? Hey, Story Night has 6 shows. Let's have each theme be based on a button in the show. So we started in November with record. We went backwards with rewind. We played. We fast forwarded. Last month we stopped. And tonight we are ejecting. We flipped the tape over halfway through the season, so we were on side A for 3 shows, and we're finishing up on side B. And interesting enough, we've always talked about how sometimes when we choose a theme, it affects our lives in some way, or it shows up in our life. I think one year we had like office stories, and someone was on the team was fired that month, and some other time we did planes, trains, and automobiles, and someone got stuck on a train, and So today, the thing that happened to me is I play the New York Times connections puzzle, and eject was right there. And I was like, there it is. It was like, if you haven't, is someone still wanting to play it today? It's the yellow one. So it's the yellow one. I'm not giving too much away because it's like eject, boot. That was last month. We did stop. This month is eject. All right, so that's how it surfaced in my life as the eject. Now, we also have, I am told, a sponsor message on this tape. And I say I am told, but I'm not going to get away with it this time because it, in fact, is my voice on the tape. So unless I was having some kind of weird experience, I did know this was happening. All right, here we go. We've all been there. Your favorite Kuntz novel, Intensity, is on tape. And we're almost to the resolution, but the tape has run out. We have two choices. We can rewind and listen to the last 3 chapters again, or we can eject. Turn the tape over and continue the story through to the denouement. Ooh, that's a fancy word. There was premature ejaculation there. Now I don't remember what side it was on. Most companies are still determining whether they can change the ending of their benefits story. They repeatedly rewind the tape and hear the same thing, never getting to a resolution. Would you like to hear a different story about employee benefits? One that puts you in control with transparency and innovation that helps you become the employer everyone wants to work for. Sound too good to be true? Maybe, but you will have to take the risk. Eject the tape and flip it over to hear the rest of the story. I'll do it right this time. Contact Lindsay at the Chandro Group. She can help you build your benefits denouement. Denouement. The Chandro Group, thank you. Now, I feel like I have to talk about this just a little bit more because the audience response wasn't quite what I was wanting it to be. I flipped the tape 3 times, and the message kept going. Doesn't that seem magical? How did I do it? It took, all right, I spent too much time on that. But I was gleeful when it was like, look, I just flip it, and the message just keeps going. So exciting. If I fast forward a little bit, we'll have sounds of people in pain from last show. Stop, so I won't do that. All right, I think that brings us to the time where we talk about the structure of the show. I actually do have a story about being ejected, but the show is so packed tonight, I don't know that I'll have time to share it, but it is my family at this kind of McMansion on Neskowin Beach, and the owner came and kicked us out. After we were only there one night, we were supposed to be there 3 nights, we were there one night, she came and kicked us out. It turns out we had rented from the wife of this sort of perennial Republican candidate from Westland, Oregon, who is like a millionaire kind of MAGA person. And his wife didn't like us, I guess. And it's amazing because it's so stupid, and yet I felt so displaced. And I'm like, wandering on the beaches of Neskowin, like, where do I go? Where do I go? It worked out. So we have 3 featured storytellers intermixed with a community story slam. And the community story slam is you. Anyone in the audience can go visit Ben or Susan over here at the story booth, write your name on a little ticket, and they'll stick it in my box of cassette tapes over there. And you have your chance to tell a 5-minute story inspired by the theme Eject. I encouraged people at the show last month to think of stories that did not involve bodily functions. I've probably cursed myself by bringing it up again. But one late night series, we had the theme pants. And that was the theme, pants. And I shared early on about an accident that I had on the subways of New York and how it involved me having to go to a public restroom and basically change my pants in a stall there, which was quite exciting. And then the whole rest of the evening, we had more stories of people's bodily functions and accidents. Some people, it was their favorite show of the season, but not mine. So I was hoping that we could have some other stories besides that. Also, anyone can be a featured storyteller. I'll bring that up too. You just write story at storystorynight.org. And there's a button there to fill out a little form. You can also call our storyline. And of course, this season is over, but we're going to be moving into our summer late night season. And this show is, we call it PG-13. That show is unrestricted, so as many bodily functions as you like. And we'll talk a little bit more about that show later. I have a confession to make. Normally, we say 5 minutes, but I'm usually a little generous with some of the stories. And if you haven't quite wrapped up, it's like, well, maybe we can do 6. All right, maybe they need 20 more seconds. We'll do 6 minutes and 20 seconds. But tonight, I'm thinking for the spirit of Eject, I'm going to be a little more severe. I wanted to be more severe than I get to be, because I really was excited about this idea of copying this late night television host in Britain, Graham Norton, who has a storytelling section in his show that's called The Red Chair. And the storytellers get to sit in this chair, and if Graham doesn't like it, he pulls a lever and the chair ejects them. and they're gone. I'm not sure our insurance waiver was high enough to cover that. And also, I couldn't figure out how to rig the chair to eject people. So instead, I searched in my garage. My next idea, we have the black sheep for our late night series. My next idea was like a sheep's hook. Is that, a shepherd's hook? Is that just what it's called, a shepherd's hook? Crook? A shepherd's crook? Okay, thank you. This is what I found in my garage. I think it's going to work. I forgot to thank our interpreters that are here with us tonight, so I'll take this opportunity to test this out and also thank LaVona Andrew.
Okay.
All right. Testing. It would have been maybe more comfortable if I'd found a sponge to put on it. But that, I think it was all crusty with paint. All right. Here I am with my shepherd's crook. Hashtag Story Boise. I'm going to bring our featured storytellers up now in reverse order. So last to speak tonight will be a person who is ejecting their, or maybe challenging you to eject some of your ideas of family, their ideas of family. And that is, she already knows, she's standing up. Come on up, Ms. Ragan. Very good. Ginger Ragan. And Ginger, you have your choice of green, blue, or orange. You can pick your chair. Go ahead and pull it back a little bit. There's no leg room. Green. Oh, they're voting for you. All right. Oh, okay. Oh, that was your mom. Oh, I see. We've learned a lot already. All right. And second to share their story, ejecting in a way you might be a little different than how you visualize it, Al Youngwerth. Here it comes. Stairs over here, too. But first up to the mic, is a person, actually, we've been trying to get her on our stage for a while. I think at least 4 or 5 years now, we've been saying, hey, is this the time that we get to have you? And then that one wasn't quite right, and we were looking for the right theme, and finally it came, because Eject is the right theme. Coming up first to the microphone to Eject Hollywood, please welcome Janet Lowe.
I discovered that I was missing something, even though I thought I had everything in place when I moved to LA. It was 1997, and I just happened to fit the demographics of a group that was the second largest group of illegal aliens in LA. And an illegal alien is a person in the States who is here illegally. They don't have any working status, they don't have a green card, but they've come here in pursuit of the American dream to improve their circumstances from the place they were coming from. And that group is the Canadian actor. I loved living in LA. I love that it was warm and sunny all the time. I love that you can start a conversation with virtually anyone by saying, "What gym do you work out at?" Or, "How's the screenplay?" And I really loved that LA was the most transient city in the States. Apparently 25,000 people move to LA every month, and 25,000 people leave LA every month. And when I got there, I did what every Canadian did. I called up every single Canadian I knew who was an acquaintance. We all hang out, and they became my best friends. And so I was lucky. I felt that I had the 3 things that you had to have to survive the first time moving there. So the first thing I had was I had working papers. So there was never any fear of me being ejected from the country. Although I've never heard of a single Canadian being deported from the US. I think we're just too nice. The second thing I had was I had enough money to live on for 3 to 6 months. And the third thing I had was I had really good representation. I had followed my Toronto agent down there, and she was at the time, and still is, Ryan Gosling's manager. And yes, I did meet him, and yes, he is very nice. So I came to realize that there was a fourth thing that I did not have, and it really is the most important thing, and that is the ability to network. I sucked at networking. I tried, but it was really hard for me to just talk about myself all the time and talk about all the things that I had done and tell everyone who I met that I was an actor and I wanted to be successful and, hang out in clubs to be seen. It just felt phony and a little desperate and kind of obvious. And so an example of how not good of a networker I am, or was, is that I kicked Oliver Stone out of my apartment. Now, I had a great apartment. It was one of a 4-plex, and it was one of those apartments with a really, really long hallway, and there were 2 bedrooms in the back, and there was a kitchen and a dining area and a little nook for an office and a decent-sized living room in the front, and in the back there was a nice little yard. And very quickly, we became the apartment known for people who needed to couch surf. So over the years, I had a series of people just coming and living on my couch for a bit. People came for a weekend, people would come for a week, or if they were brand new into LA, they needed a place to crash until they found their own apartment. And so shortly after I arrived, this woman I knew from Toronto, an actor, an acquaintance, called me up and said that she was coming down for a week and could she please stay with us? And I said, sure. And she said that Oliver Stone was taking her to a dinner the first night. She knew Oliver Stone and he was gonna take her to dinner. Now she is a good networker. Oliver Stone at the time had 11 Academy Award nominations, and he had won 3 Oscars. 1 was for Best Screenplay, and 2 for Best Director. So his first one for Best Director was Platoon, and his second one was Born on the 4th of July. And you know, he was kind of known as this controversial filmmaker. He had made, films, anti-war films, anti-capitalist films, anti-racism films. And I think in recent years, he was attached to a documentary about alternative energy sources, so not relying on fossil fuels. And so on paper, he seemed like a really cool guy. He's not. Well, for one thing, he likes the rice. He's a big old rice king. He's into Asian women. So my friend is gonna go have dinner with him, and it's a big deal. She did a lot of preparation. She had rearranged her flight so she can come down earlier so that she could go to dinner with him. She and her Toronto agent collaborated on what kind of dress that she was gonna wear. And when she arrived, my roommate and I whisked her up to Melrose so she can get better shoes. And she didn't know where she was going, but it turned out that it was a dinner party hosted by Billy Wilder, and there were some old Hollywood celebrities there. People like Angie Dickinson was there, and Warren Beatty was there, and she said they were really nice to her. So we were all kind of excited that she was getting ready for this big outing with Oliver Stone, and I had these boots, so they were kind of like thigh-high, pretty woman, come hither boots, and she said, you have to put those on. Oliver will love those. And so, and then I put on, kind of a tasteful mini dress, and she was like, Oliver is gonna love you. And so we waited, and we waited, and we waited. And finally, she gets a phone call. And I can't remember exactly how the phone call happened because cell phones were invented, but they weren't that popular, and I don't think my friend had a cell phone, so she must have given him my landline. And so Oliver's assistant calls and tells my friend that Oliver is running late, that he is on his way, and for her to wait on the curb. And I thought that was kind of odd because why did he call his assistant to have his assistant call my friend to give her this message? Wouldn't it have been just as easy for him to pick up the phone and call her himself? And she wasn't gonna wait on no curb. It was her first night in LA. He was coming to pick her up to escort her to dinner as his date. And he doesn't know the neighborhood we're in. He doesn't know if it's safe for her to be sitting on the curb. And I really wanted to meet him. I mean, if he doesn't come to the door, how else was he gonna take one look at me and decide that he must put me in his next Oscar-winning movie? So we hear a car horn, and I tell my friend, just go get ready, go put on your shoes. And so she's in the dining area, and remember I said that we had this long apartment, well, she's kind of in the middle there. And I go to the window, and I see this town car kind of just snaking up my street. And then there's this looming figure walking behind it, and he's peering at the houses, and he's trying to see a street number because it's dark by now. And he looks a little annoyed. And so I wave at him, and he kind of waves back, and he's looking a little confused because he sees an Asian woman in the window, but it's not the Asian woman that he's coming to pick up. And I will give him credit, at least he had the decency to not think we all looked alike. And so he comes to the door, and I'm and I open the door, and he breezes right by me, and he starts tromping around my apartment as if he just hadn't entered my home, and he kind of says to no one in particular, you need more furniture. And then he proceeds to take himself on a tour of my apartment, and he's, roaming around. He's in the back checking things out, and he finally kind of circles back around to my friend, and he says, "Which room is mine? I brought my toothbrush." And my friend says, "Oliver, we talked about this." And then he's getting impatient, and he's saying to her, "Come on, hurry up. We're late. How long does it take you to get ready? Hurry up." And the poor girl, she is so flustered that he's barking at her so much that she's having trouble doing up the buckle of the straps of the sexy sandals that we made her buy in Melrose. And I take a moment, and it dawns on me how bizarre this is. And is this really happening? And how profoundly disappointed I am. And to make matters worse, my friend starts saying, "I'm sorry, Oliver, I'm sorry." And I think I'm one of these people that avoids conflict. I don't like to get into fights. If someone is rude to me, I kind of let it roll off my back, especially if I'm never going to see them again. However, I am extremely protective of my friends, especially since she is staying with me. She is my guest, and she's a little frail to begin with. So I say, "Why is she apologizing to you?" And he says, "Well, she should be apologizing. We're late." And I said, "Hold on. You are an hour late. Whose fault is it that you're late?" And he looks at me as if he's seeing me for the very first time. And he says, "Well, what are you, a feminist?" And I say, "No, I'm a humanist." And this is what he does to me. He puts his little hands together and gives me a condescending Oriental bow. So, I grab him by the shoulders, turn him around, and start shoving him towards the door. And his parting words to me were, "You really need to get more furniture." I ejected Oliver Stone from my apartment. Now, I've gotten somewhat better at networking. And you know what he never got? After that night, he never got another Oscar nomination. Oliver effing Stone.
Thank you, Janet. And thank you also to Sarah McIver here, who's interpreting now. Now, I know that you haven't had enough of Janet, so guess what? You have another opportunity to see her perform because she's going to be in a reading on Monday, May 6th. It's called Four Riffs for a Sailor, and it is been written by the current Searles Place resident who comes to us from Cambridge, Massachusetts, and she's here tonight. It's Monica Raymond, who's right over here. So you can find those, there are $10 tickets. It's going to be happening at the Creative Space in the Live, Work, Create district of Garden City on 34th Street. And it'll be the first time that this play has been read for an audience. There might be a little bit of a Q&A afterwards, and Janet and 4 other local actors are involved in that reading. So look for that on May 6th, searlesplace.org. Yeah. One of the stories that, so one of the fundraisers that we have at Story Night is I published a book this year called Audience of One, Stories of Stage, Screen, and Solitude. And one of the chapters in it is called You're On, and it's about my first time performing on a Broadway stage. But what's not in the book is the audition that I got. At the time, I was in Seattle, and I just decided I'm going to go for it. I'm going to audition. And I called the casting director, and I said, I'm late in the game, but people are telling me that this is the description of this show sounds like me. So I'm going to listen, and I'm going to come. She's like, great. Come to New York next week. We'll find an audition slot for you. So I go to, I think we were at Chelsea Studios, and I walk in, and there are all these other guys in the hallway. And I'm dressed something like this, maybe not the zhuzh scarf, something like this, just some pants and a shirt. The show I'm auditioning for is Avenue Q. So it's primarily puppetry skills and music and acting that they're looking for. Well, the other guys at this audition are all wearing like sports clothes, like tight-fitting pants and muscle shirts, and they're all extremely muscular, and they're stretching and kicking their legs over their heads and just doing spins and all sorts of stuff. And so one of these things did not look like the others. I was kind of back in the corner, kind of curled into myself, like warming up my lip sync hand. And I thought, what in the world? I am going to be ejected from this audition so fast. Like, clearly, I read the breakdown wrong, and I didn't realize it was going to be this big of an audition, that there were going to be like 35 guys here who were like, most of them are younger than I am and definitely more athletic and more limber. And then a voice came out and said, all right, can I have the guys for Oklahoma back in the rehearsal room, please? And they all left, and I was all alone at last. And I did get the part, so there's that too. All right, speaking of someone getting the part, let's give someone a part of our stage by selecting from our cassettes over here. Now, in addition to the shepherd's crook that I found in my garage, this suitcase is also something I found in my garage. It's full of accompaniment tapes of mostly religious music that I sang at church services in my teens. You know, titles like He Took It All, or Go There With You. Oh, I guess I selected that one. All right, that's the one. We're going to go there with you, whoever you are. And you are Brig. Brig, come on up and share your 5-minute story. Now remember, Brig, I'm being strict tonight. 5 minutes, it's a family show, so no swear words and stuff. Yeah. Oh, okay. So, all right. Get me the other ticket. All right, great. Is this your first time sharing a story with us?
It is, yeah.
Great. Take it away.
Okay, so it's shaking and stuttering, and I look to my right, and I'm just like, it's your plane. Oh, wait, let me back up. Let me back way up, actually. So I decided to do something interesting after going through a challenging part of my life, and I decided I wanted to learn how to fly an airplane because it seemed kind of simple, you know, like driving school, right? You just like have your instructor and go out for like 2 afternoons and then you fly an airplane, right? I guess it's not like that. They give you a stack of books like this high, and you're going to do more studying than you've ever done in your life, but it's actually incredible. So I sign up for flight school, because when I look up in the sky and I see the airplanes doing their maneuvers and they're falling and flipping out of the sky in air shows, I want to be in the plane. So I know there's something clearly off or different about me. So I enroll in flight school. Ironically enough, my flight instructor's name is Brad Cluck. Yeah, I was like, maybe it's like a stage name, like a flight instructor name. I don't know. So I don't know. I'm maybe like a month into flight school. I'm in a Piper Cherokee, so let me explain what this is. It's like a Volkswagen Bug with wings. So it's got 2 doors, but 4 seats. So you have to kind of pull the seat forward if you're going to put anyone in the back. Fortunately, that day it was just the 2 of us, and we were flying into a very small airport. I was in control of the plane, and he was, I don't know, playing with his new watch next to me. I don't really know what he was doing, but I was in control, and I felt really good about it. And then he says, switch the fuel tank. Now, the fuel tanks, you have a fuel tank in either wing, so right side, left side. Okay. Now, where the fuel tank switches, it's down here on the floor. You know when you're driving and you drop your phone in between your seat and you're trying to get it at the light? So that's where the fuel switch is, and it kind of looks like the dial on your washing machine, if you have an old school washing machine like I do. So it's, left tank, right tank, easy enough. So I go down and I switch the tank, and I'm still flying, and the plane starts stuttering. So I'm like, oh shit, oh shoot. So we are downwind, which means we've got 2 more right turns to make it into the runway. They teach you in flight school, you do not need an engine to land a plane, you can glide it in. That is the first thing they teach you. They teach you that every day. They drill it into your head. So I'm like, oh, well, this isn't good. So I tell him, it's your plane. So he stops with his watch. He's like, what, oh my gosh. And he realizes pretty quickly, as he's making the first right turn, to turn base, to get back land us, he calls a mayday. He's like, mayday, mayday, emergency landing. And I'm like, ooh, this is like so exciting. Cool. I hope I'll still make it to work in time after this. So so he's like, did you switch I'm like, yeah, I switched the fuel tanks like you said, so we could keep the fuel balance between the 2 tanks. So he makes that second, and he's like, we just got to make it onto the runway. And I'm looking, I'm like, there's just a few cactuses. Like, I'm pretty sure this Volkswagen Bug with wings can handle this. So he glides it he barely gets the tires on the asphalt. Now, what that means is by gliding it and hitting the asphalt on the end of the runway, the FAA is not probably going to do a report. So we're going to be able to slide out of this pretty easily. But what he realizes once we land is he's like, look down, what tank are we on? And I look down, and the dial's on off. So apparently, just for anyone that's going to go to flight school, it's good to know that there is left tank, right tank, and off, which I clearly turned the dial to. So yeah, that's pretty much what happened. He said, do not say anything to anyone. He started up back the plane. The ground crew came out. These guys were like putting down their Nintendo DSs like, yes, we got an emergency. And so they race out, and he's like, we're fine. And he is just like, I've never had an emergency landing before. I'm like, oh, cool. Like, yeah. Okay, well, I'm glad the plane's okay. He's like, how did you not know that? I'm like, you're my instructor. So I did go on to solo fly an airplane all by myself. I did get to be a passenger in many aerobatic flights, but I will never forget the day that I gave my CFI flight instructor his first Mayday. Thank you.
Thank you. And if you would go visit our Slammer booth and sign our release form, which is also an insurance waiver for any future flights with Story Night. Mayday, mayday, mayday. Wow, that story flew by. Not my best. All right, fine. But it was, so that segue wasn't very good, but you know what? That story was a perfect segue to our next featured storyteller. Please welcome, for the first time to our stage, Al Youngwerth.
Thank you. So this morning I woke up, I climbed out of bed, and I promptly stubbed the crap out of my toe. And while I was grimacing in pain, I thought of something that my mom used to say to me. Whenever I hurt myself, she'd say, Al, you're an accident looking for a place to happen. And so that felt very prescient, and so did her story. So I like dangerous activities, motorcycles, racing cars, and more recently, flying small airplanes. Safety's always been top of mind for me because I want to keep being able to do the things that I love to do. And so after hundreds of hours of flying and lots of training, I decided to buy my big boy airplane. And I chose a Lancer. Now, Lancers are known for their speed and their sports car-like handling, and as the airplane that former Micron CEO Steve Appleton died in. But I got my airplane with an airframe parachute. Now, an airframe parachute is a relatively new safety feature. It's like a get-out-of-jail-free card. If something really bad goes wrong, there's a little red handle up in the ceiling, and you pull on it really hard, and a rocket-propelled parachute shoots out of the top of the plane, and it brings the plane and its occupants safely down to the ground most of the time. And to be clear, the parachute's not attached to the people in the plane, it's attached to the airplane itself. So one fine October day, I decided to go visit my friends in Eugene. I got to the Nampa airport about 5 p.m. I pulled my airplane out of the hangar. I taxied down to the runway. I did my pre-flight checks, checked for traffic, and pulled out into the runway. I checked the engine gauges, they were all green. I pushed the throttle forward, and the acceleration of the plane pushed me back in the seat. I checked the gauges again, all green. I pulled the control stick back, and I was off the ground. Checked the gauges, all green. And as I accelerated away, I pulled back in the control stick harder, and the horizon disappeared from the windshield, and I felt the G-forces of the airplane, and I pulled away into the air. Flying an airplane is a total rush. And flying in the fall is my favorite time of year to fly. The air is much smoother than it is in the summer. And in the evening, the long light casts shadows on the scenery below and makes it even more spectacular than it already is. Now, flying in weather is a very serious thing, and weather over the Cascade Mountain Range is even a more serious thing. So when I fly west over the Cascade Range, I usually make the east side of my Cascade flight my go, no-go. I'll come up to the eastern side, I'll peek over the top of the Cascades, and if the weather doesn't look good, I'll turn to the north, land in Redmond, Oregon, rent a car, and drive the 2 hours to Eugene. But on this day, with Mount Bachelor just off my right wing, I made the call to continue into Eugene. But there was a broken cloud layer, so I wanted to fly a little bit lower than I normally would, and I decided to turn off the autopilot and hand fly it. Takeoff is a rush, but flying a Lancer airplane at 200 miles an hour over the Cascade Range is really amazing. I got about a little past halfway down the Cascade range, and I just crossed a ridge with a valley ahead, and I felt a sudden deceleration. What the hell? This can't be happening, not here. I just lost my engine. What am I going to do? My wife, my kids, my friends waiting for me at the airport. I got to get this engine started, or I got to roll the dice with the parachute. I quickly thought about from my head of what my emergency checklist items were. Switch the fuel tanks, not to the off position, from the right tank to the left tank. Wait, nothing. Auxiliary fuel pump on, wait, nothing. Scan outside, I need to start a left turn. Airspeed's too fast, I gotta slow down. Engine gauges, I've got red. What else? Mixture, full rich. Nothing. Mixture, pull it lean. Nothing. What else? What else? Ignition, left mag only. Nothing. Right mag only. Nothing. Both mags. Nothing. Nothing. I got nothing. Nothing but trees. There's no place to land. I've got to eject. Cascade approach, mayday, mayday, mayday. Cascade approach, squawk 7700, say souls on board. One soul on board. What else? What else? There's nothing else. Shut off the master switch, turn off the ignition, shut off the fuel. This is it. I take one last look outside. I yank on the red handle. Poof! The airplane, the parachute fires. Okay, that's a good start. Suddenly I feel the airplane slowing. I get pushed forward into my seat harness, and the airplane goes into a nosedive. Uh-oh, uh-oh. Then I feel the airplane swing back underneath the parachute. Okay, I might survive this. That's a good start. I take my headset off, and it's really quiet. and I'm just above the trees, and it's really, really beautiful. And I look down at the trees, and I think, I wonder if the tops of those trees are going to be really soft. Bam! Hit the trees. They're not soft at all. The left wing hits the side of a tree. It's scraping down the side of a tree. The wingtip breaks off. I swing to the right. The right wing scrapes along another tree, and I'm going down, and I'm going down. And I need to stop for a second and explain something. So this parachute is about 75 feet above the airplane. Later, when I spoke to the Forest Service, they said the trees there were 175 feet tall. So when I was still about 100 feet above the ground, the parachute hit the tops of the trees. Bounce, snap, going straight down, oh no, bounce, snap, back up, going down, bounce, snap, straight down, oh no, back up, level, bounce, snap, bounce, snap, poosh. I'm on the ground. Get out of the plane, stupid, it's gonna catch on fire. I throw open the door and I scramble out in the waist-deep scrub brush of the forest and scamper away as quickly as I can. And when I'm at a safe distance, I turn around and I look back at my airplane, and it's not leaking any fuel. And I look at myself, and I don't have a scratch on me. I'm okay. I made it. I frickin' nailed that plane crash. I pull my phone out of the pocket, wondering, do I have cell service? Nope. Okay, hike back to the plane, turn on the radio. Cascade approach, November 5-1 Zulu Zulu. Nothing. Cascade approach, November 5-1 Zulu Zulu. Nothing. I'm in a canyon. I'm not going to be able to reach them. Switch to emergency frequency. Let's see if we can get somebody overhead. Mayday, mayday, mayday. Alaska 585, who's calling? November 5-1 Zulu Zulu. My engine failed over the Cascade Range. I deployed my airframe parachute, and now I'm on the forest floor. You what? You're where? I'm on the ground in the forest. I'm okay. I need you to call Cascade Approach and let them know I'm okay. I'm 27 miles due east of Eugene Airport. Okay, hang on. Alaska 585, hey, we relayed that information for you. Hey, thanks, I really appreciate that. Hey, can you call them back and have them call my wife? Her name's Lindsay and her phone number is... Sure, we'll be right back to you. And as I'm sitting waiting for them to call back, I hear a noise. What is that? I get up on my tippy toes. Oh my gosh, that's a truck going by. I landed maybe 50 yards from a road. I'm gonna get a cold beer tonight and talk to my wife. Alaska 585, we called that in. Great, hey, you're not gonna believe this. I just saw a truck go by, not 50 yards from where I'm standing. Alaska, hey, that's an amazing story. Holy cow, we're gonna lose you soon. Glad to hear you're alive. Take care. Thanks. Take care. About 45 minutes later, emergency services showed up. They checked me out to make sure I was okay, had me recount my story. We secured the plane, and I hopped in the sheriff's car for a ride back to my friend's house. Hey, how far are we from cell service? Oh, about 15 minutes. Great. I call my wife on the phone. Hey, babe, can't believe it, huh? What? What? They didn't tell you I was okay? Who do they think gave you your phone number? I'm so sorry, babe. I'm so sorry. So Cascade Approach called my wife to let her know I was in an airplane crash. But they didn't let her know that I was okay. And so for 2 hours, my wife and kids didn't know if I was dead or alive. I got my cold beer that night, and the next day I flew home on Alaska Airlines.
Al, you frickin' nailed that story. You've heard the name Lindsay twice tonight. Once in my tape recorder and once in Al's story. It's the same Lindsay. You know, Chandro Group, the insurance company. I'm not sure which came first. The danger guy, the insurance company came first. Okay, then the dangerous guy. All right. Well, we're gonna go ahead and I'm gonna ask Allison if she'll move over to the computer and if we can. Oh, she's already there. All right, great. We're gonna move the screen down, which is always exciting. And there's no internet. That's interesting. Okay. Well, the problem with that is we probably have to join the Jump Wi-Fi. Well, we have a couple other things we can show you on the screen anyway. It's our 14th birthday, and we've made it a tradition to give you an opportunity to send us birthday gifts during the show. And normally what happens is your name flies up on the screen, and that part will still work from your cell phones. The way you can do that is go to your text messaging and type story, one word, and send that to 44321. And then that will give us a little birthday gift. We had somehow the same person's name several times on there. We repurposed this from earlier in the year, so we can add more to that. We'll see if we can get that running, and if not, we have a couple other things. But I wanted to have our board president, Ruth Schwartz, join me up here and grab that microphone right there on the floor, if you would, Ruth, when you come up. Oh, there we go. Oh, so yeah, there's a new name there. All right, awesome. So Ann Anderson, I think, is actually a Story subscriber, and somehow she's the only Story subscriber that appears in this account. So every month, her $25 subscription comes through. We really appreciate that, Ann. I don't know if you're here tonight, but you're here on this page. And then just an hour ago, Brooklyn added to that. So we're almost $4,000 into a $14,000 goal, which we just made up because we're turning 14. We thought, well, why not make it 14,000? But actually, the truth is, in our budget that we've done for the fiscal year so far, we are actually about $7,000 below that budgeted amount. So we are hoping to pick up a little bit of that here tonight. Do you want to come up on the stage, Ruth? Can you get that cord? You just bring Sierra with you. So one of the reasons that we may have fallen short is a challenge that our board president, Ruth, will talk to you a little bit about here. Hi, Ruth.
Hi, Jodi. We have a great opportunity for you. Yeah, think about this for yourself. If you have a talent for marketing, social media, if you have an interest, if you even know about marketing and social media, the board of directors and other volunteers of Story Night would love to have your help. So consider it. You can catch us here in the room, or you can send an email, when you wake up and think about it tomorrow, to board@storystorynight.org.
Yeah, and if we get this number up to like 5,000 here, we're going to show you something really special. It's I don't know what you're thinking right now, but it's not.
I don't even know what you're thinking.
It isn't that. But before I let Ruth go, actually, I wanted to bring up all of the board members that are here tonight. Can we just don't get a chance to really acknowledge them all very often. I don't see any. Oh, nope, I don't see any of them moving yet. Do we have some board members that are here? There's Alice. All right, here they come. All right, they're coming down now. Nathan, great. And Natalia's there. Shannon can't be with us tonight, I don't think. Is Courtney not here tonight, maybe? So yeah, let's give, these guys have worked, one of our volunteers who's done a lot of work this year and was a previous board member said, man, this board is working harder than any other board I've seen. They're so engaged, they're so active. They were there with us coming out of COVID, which of course was very challenging. So let's give these guys a big round of applause. And
Can I make one more plea?
yeah, one more thing though.
Okay.
Because I'd also know that there are some former board members in the audience. And would you just stand so we can acknowledge you as well if you've served on the board of directors? There's Allison and Chris and Hannah back there. Yep. Good. Well, 3 of our previous board members here tonight too. That's awesome. Unless I missed someone else who was standing and didn't see them. Oh, maybe that was Brian that stood up. All right, good. All right, and then you have something else you wanted to add?
Well, I did want to add that, this whole marketing thing is, an opportunity to be with this amazing group of people up here. But secondly, as our flagship season ends and we go into our late night series, you can see how amazing it is to be a sponsor of this program. And Late Night is looking for your sponsorship, whether it be for the season, for any of the shows on the theme of the outdoors.
We were going to reveal that as a surprise, but that's all right.
It's a surprise. It's a reveal.
Will you act surprised in a second when we reveal that? All right, great.
Take this microphone.
Thanks, everybody. Thank you. No, there we got somebody else coming up. All right, we're doing great. Wow, look how fun this is. All those names that were there in the beginning have disappeared below. We have Mary Grant, we have Diane Schwartz, Katie Gaston, and Laura Marsters, who I think is also a story subscriber, and Anonymous just keeps giving and giving. There's Nancy Klingel, thank you. Keep going, Anonymous. We got you. I can tell you've got deep pockets. So, all right, we're just $500 away from that special surprise. At this time, though, I'm going to ask our host of Story Late Night to come to the stage and give us a bit of a preview for what we can expect starting in June over at the Women's Ward at the Old Idaho Penitentiary. So please welcome to the whatever we call this stage, the stage here at Jump from our Late Night series, Beth Norton.
Well, is this on?
Should be soon.
Well, can you hear me?
There it is.
Ruth got it a little wrong. We're actually going to be doing the indoors season this summer. Just kidding. It is going to be the outdoor season. So I chose this season for... clap if you've never been to Late Night or you don't... Okay, great. Well, maybe I'll start there. So Late Night, we'll do 3 shows in the summer and 3 shows in the fall, and this is our unrestricted show, so adults only, all subjects are on the table. I have a really good friend who says that they love the summer season because they call it outdoors storytelling, and because it's at the old pen of the Women's Ward of the Old Pen. So everybody's just like, cling, cling, cling. So this summer is going to be the outdoors season. June, we always honor the queer community for Pride Month. And so the June theme will be, wait till you hear the theme, coming out of the closet doors. For June, July will be out the back door. It's not a butt reference. And then August will be the great outdoors. Our show works a lot like this show works. So we have featured story opportunities. We have slammer opportunities. I hope that you will come out, join us. You can bring your own snacks and food and your chairs and your blanket and sit on the grass under the great outdoors. Hope to see you then.
And I don't know if you... I don't know if you've had a chance to see it yet because we had some problem with the file. But the big reveal for the $5,000 amount already was revealed. It's the season poster.
Oh, cute. Oh.
It went away. Oh, you don't get that because we're still $268 short. All right, Anonymous, give us $268 and we'll bring back, you can stay for a little bit longer because we have something else we want to share. And that is that anyone, so you have this number, texting story to 44321, but the board has decided to give you a little bonus. So instead of texting story to 44321, if you text, I didn't know this was a tongue twister. If you text story sub SUB, story sub, one word, to 44321 and become a subscriber, which will start you in on the late night season, we have a gift for you. Anyone who signs up as a story subscriber now until the end of May will receive the first ever available Story Story Late Night t-shirt with our late night logo on it.
Do I get a t-shirt?
Of course you get a t-shirt.
Sweet.
Yes. So that will be something new, and we will give that to you at your first show in June. I think it's June 13th. Or let's show them that
Something like that.
season poster one more time, then we can check the date. It's back. There it is. June 11th. June 11th. Out the closet door.
Out the closet door.
And it was a year ago, last year in June, that your special music was the Gay Men's Chorus.
Yeah, that was great.
It was really great.
That was for the American Dreams theme, Marriage.
Marriage, yes. So we'll check back in with the. Oh, thank you, Michelle. Thank you, Heather. If I remember right, Heather, don't you direct the what is it called? Marimbas. Yeah, and that was our first show at Jump in 2016. The Boise Marimbas were right over here, and they helped us inaugurate the show here, and she's here tonight. That's awesome, and thank you for your gift. All right, so we'll check back in with this again at the end of the show. But if you have any questions about any of that, you can go visit the Slammer booth during intermission. We'll connect you with someone over there. While there, you can drop your name in for the second act and buy some merch, I think, outside, including my book. If you don't have any questions, our show sponsor might be able to help with that. So here's a message from our show sponsor. Finding Good helps people ask better questions. Leaders with their teams, salespeople with clients, teachers with students, and even parents with their kids are using Finding Good's framework to gain more clarity and foster stronger connections with each other. Thank you, Finding Good, for sponsoring the show tonight. All right, we are going to invite the Boise choruses back up for intermission on stage here, and we'll allow you to eject from your seats and take about a 10-minute break, and more stories after the break. Featured storytellers, come on back. I hadn't heard the choruses sing together before, so that was a special treat. Heard them separately. Hopefully no one was off flying a plane during intermission. When we got the City of Boise Cultural Ambassador, Tilly Bubb, who's the cultural planner for the City of Boise, said, like, well, what is the Cultural Ambassador program? Are you going to do a special program? You're not required to do a special program, but will you do a special program, or will you just zhuzh it up a little bit? And I was like, oh, we'll probably just zhuzh it up. So this is us without the Cultural Ambassador. And this is us with the Cultural Ambassador. We zhuzhed it up. All right, we're just missing Janet coming back to the stage, paging Janet Lowe. Janet Lowe. And then we'll get started with the next round. So we were actually celebrating my sister's wedding on the beach of Oregon in Neskowin. She'd gotten the permit and everything to have the ceremony out on the beach. And the short-term rental was not pleased that there was a wedding in front of the house, and the neighbors weren't pleased. So apparently she drove up from West Lynn or Tigard or something. My sister was still in her wedding dress, and she's like, you have to go. You can't have wedding parties here. You have to go. And my sister's like, but we've got the permits. We didn't have the wedding on the property. We had the wedding on a public beach. We had the right to do that. She's like, well, you have to go. And she was very threatening. I actually called the police because I was like, I don't know what our rights are here. Can she just show up and kick us out of this house? Like, we have a contract, and she's saying that we're in violation of the contract, but she won't tell us how we're in violation of the contract. My sister, of course, is crying. A lot of the family and friends on the beach don't know what's going on because we went back to the house for a moment. Eventually, we're on the back side. She actually then goes in, and I'm sitting out there, and she said I was very intimidating. She told the... I actually took that a bit as a compliment. I was like, yes, I was very intimidating. It was my long hair period right after COVID where my hair went down to like here, and apparently that was intimidating, possibly. Anyway, she came in. I was telling her, like, would you just tell my sister how we're in violation of the contract? And she came in and she turned on the alarm system, and it was piercing loud. And she's like, you have 20 minutes to get, I'm being nice, I'm giving you 20 minutes to get your stuff out of this house. So I called the police. She turns the alarm. She goes, well, now the police will get here faster. I was like, thank you. So I'm sitting out there. The alarm's going on and on and on and on. And she finally comes and stands there with some friend. And then the rest of the family that's staying in the house is kind of gathered around. We're all kind of wondering what we're going to do. The police arrive. They're there. And my sister looks to me, and she's like, Jodi, what should we do? And I looked at this woman who apparently was wearing like an $800 T-shirt, which I couldn't tell it was worth that much. So one of my sister's friends told me later that, she was one of those people. And I looked and I said, we are here to celebrate love. And I'm not sure that this house, this place, this situation is able to support that love. So we might just have to let it go. That's what I wished I had said. What I said is, well, we can either fight this now or later. We don't even know who this lady is. And it wasn't pretty. So, we were ejected from that home and quickly had to find other places, and we're all scattered around. One couple had to leave for another party, so they didn't even realize they'd been kicked out of the house until they got back the next day and had to find out who took their clothes. And, it was. We still had a little beach party, but I was kind of laying on a blanket the whole time because I'd kind of got wiped out. That, in a nutshell, was being ejected from the Neskowin mansion. And probably won't go back there. Don't think I will. All right, let's start the second act. Oh, let's start with a slammer, shall we? Yeah, let's do that. Let's bring up the cassette box, including He Looked Beyond My Faults and Saw My Need. Also, the song Safe. Oh, could we also get rid of the screen, please? Oh, do we have some play story? Oh, okay. Thank you. Yes, could we get rid of the screen, please? Thank you. Let's go right in the center here. Oh, well, this is a twist. I have selected a ticket from the person who's working the Story Slam booth and is also a former featured storyteller. Please welcome back to our stage, Mr. Ben Murray. Ben, remember, I have the shepherd's crook here tonight.
You're not big enough to use it on me. First, I want to say that there's been a serious violation of the slammer rules because I did not sign a ticket. But it's very easy to say I've had many ejections and rejections in my life, so I can spend the rest of the hour. But I'll just take one. So there I am, it's 1966, I'm in the middle of freshman year in college, and I make one of those life decisions that teenagers should not make. I join the Marine Corps. The officer program. So the deal was, you're fine during the school year, but you spend 2 summers of 10 weeks each at the officer school in Quantico, and on graduation, you become commissioned as a second lieutenant in the Marine Corps, and a few months later, you get a chance to go to Asia for the first time. There I was. So about 15, 16 months went by before I got called to my first summer of active duty. And In the interim time, I had discovered interesting things like girls, the anti-war movement, general student politics of the 1960s. And I was in no mind to join the Marine Corps that summer, but I did. The biggest thing that got me there was it was my first chance to fly on an airplane, an old propeller plane that smoke poured out of the engines the whole way down to Virginia. And I spent the summer there, 10 weeks. It went okay. I enjoyed it in some ways, but I was mildly on my way to wildly anti-war by the time I showed up. So the Marine Corps, as you probably won't be surprised to know, when they bring 200 people, and that was our company, for summer training, their goal is to drive you out so that only the best will remain. So in my particular platoon, we started with 50, and at the end there were, I think, 24 left. And they were happy. And the next summer, they would take that 24 and maybe make it 12, and they'd be happy with the result. Anyways, I'm flying home, back to college, and what am I going to do now? Because they're going to call me up next summer. So I thought long and hard, and really, it probably wasn't that hard because I'm totally against the war. I was like, no chance I'm going to lead SOL Marines in Vietnam. So I contacted the liaison officer out of Cincinnati, and he sent Captain Harry to visit me one day after I'd put in my request for discharge and separation. And he was quite a nice guy. He bought me an order of French fries, but then he poured mountains of ketchup over the top. I was like, hello, these are mine. But he was really nice, and he, among other things, he said, you know, I had done a great job that summer. I wasn't so sure of that. And that I was really smart. And he knew I was smart because he had pulled the company records from the training group. And he said, you finished first academically. He was kind enough not to say I finished almost last physically. But it kind of went like this. The Marine Corps needs people like you, smart guys, thoughtful guys. We don't need gung-ho idiots. We need smart, thoughtful guys leading these young kids. And I was like, well, I know, I hear you, but there's napalm, there's free fire zones, there's all these terrible things going on. And then he told me about his recent tour in Vietnam, highlighted by village chieftains having their heads put on pikes and things like that. And all the more reason that smart guys needed to go. And for half an hour, it was probably the greatest pep talk I had ever had in my life. And he just wanted me to stay on. And finally he said, are you with me? Are you coming back next summer? And I looked away and I thought, my life is going to change here, whatever I do. And I said, finally, after a long hesitation, no, I can't be with you. Now, I said he gave me the greatest pep talk of all time. And all of a sudden, he turned back to me and he was wearing his dress blues, really fancy. And he said, why, you GD crummy college puke. We hate people like you. It's commies like you who are making this war harder than it should be. You can consider yourself out of the Marine Corps. You are a reject.
Well, I guess we know who put your name in. Yeah, Susan better run. I was recently ejected for beliefs, I guess, kind of like Ben was, from the jury pool of the Chad Daybell case. They called so many people. Anyone else here? Anyone else here in that pool? No, just me. Oh, wow. I think it was me stating that I wasn't in favor of capital punishment. I think that is what sent me out the door. Could have been a number of other things too, though. Honestly, the survey was quite long. But I'm happy to be with you here tonight instead of in that jury room. So that's good. Let's move on to our last featured storyteller of the night, her first time. It's on the main stage. Please welcome Ginger Ragan.
Thank you. Thank you. It's kind of funny to follow someone who's fired you in real life. So, thanks, Ben. Does anybody in the audience remember the old show, Benny Hill? It was a skit comedy show. Yeah. Well, there is one comedy skit that they do. It's a middle-aged couple in bed. They're getting ready to go to sleep, and the man rolls over and pats his wife's ample side and says, "Good night, mother of six," and rolls over. She doesn't particularly care for that. So she says, as she's turning off the light, "Good night, father of two." The reason that's particularly funny for me is that in my household, that's the truth. I have been a surrogate mom. I went on this journey to help other families, and it's been absolutely wonderful. It kind of all came about when we were sitting at the dinner table, and my husband informed me that he was having a vasectomy tomorrow. And having been the oldest of 5 children and living in Idaho, when all of my friends have big families, and I basically felt like I started parenting when I was 10. My mom had twins and only had 2 hands, so I kind of became the additional mom in the house. So I just figured that my house would be overrun with small people. And I figured marrying a Catholic man was definitely in my favor. However, that just was not meant to be. So I went online to this new thing called the internet in 1995, after having had my 2 daughters with my husband and having this lovely little nuclear family. But I had this need to have another baby. I had this desire. And when I was 10, my mom's best friend had still never had a baby. And they had actually talked about my mom carrying a baby for them. Planted that seed in my brain. Luckily, her friend got pregnant sort of out of the blue, and they were blessed with children of their own. So my mom did not go through a surrogacy, but at least I'd heard of it and had known what it was. So 1995 finds me looking up different ways to help infertile couples. I was accepted as an egg donor for a company out of Phoenix, Arizona, because at the time there was no infertility treatment in Boise at all to be had, really. I donated eggs, and it was not a real fulfilling experience for me because you're drugged up, you're flat on a table, and you never know if they wind up having a baby or not. And that kind of was a bummer to me. But the nurse who helped with the egg retrieval was very familiar with surrogacy. And she actually gave me the number to a company that arranged surrogacies. I got in contact with them. And I was young, I was healthy, I could have babies, I didn't have horrible outcomes, I was an ideal candidate. I was about 8 years younger than their normal candidate, but that was great. We got everything, all of the paperwork, all of the rigmarole, all of the blood testing and everything that you have to go through, as well as my husband has to go through all of it as well. We met a couple from North Carolina. They came to Boise to meet us. they had sent us this dossier basically on them, and it was all of the information about how they got to surrogacy and what their needs were. I met them. I fell in love with them. They are just the sweetest people. And I only had one hesitation. I said, I need this child to know who I am for the rest of his or her life. I was a traditional surrogate, so I used my egg, and so all these babies are biologically as much mine as my 2 children that I raised, and that was really important to me. So I got a really good feeling from Phil and Julianne that they would stay in contact. And I have to say, if Josh hadn't been the first, and his mom hadn't been the first mom that I worked with, I may not have ever gone through surrogacy again. But they were amazing. Josh was born just before Thanksgiving, and something that had meant so much to me with my children was being able to breastfeed. Josh's mom had actually worked with her doctor prior to his birth to start medications so that she could lactate, so that she could nurse her baby. And that made me feel like $100. It made me feel like he was going to the right place. He was definitely going to the right family. And I felt like they would stay in contact with me. Because of that experience, I went on and I had another daughter, and then another daughter, and then one more, because, you know, my mom had 5 girls. I had to have the 5 girls and 1 boy, so I win. Anyways, my biggest fear throughout surrogacy was I wanted the kids to know that we are their family and that our family is really different than a lot of people. Because you get my kids in a room, and that's 10 parents and 6 kids. So it's a big deal. I have felt like surrogacy has not only grown my compassion and my empathy for other people, but I really went into it to be selfish because I love being pregnant. Until the last one, who wound up being a really difficult pregnancy and wound up giving us so many crazy hassles, but she's exactly like me. She's of course, she had to be the last one. So anyways, I have a daughter who went to the Naval Academy that I raised. I have a CPA that I raised that I'm so proud of. I have a dentist, a medical researcher, a junior in college for international business at UC Santa Barbara, and a 19-year-old who is studying fine art in Melbourne, Australia. And that is my weird, crazy family. And if you're wondering if we still have that same kind of relationship, I have someone who's going to come join me. This is my son, Josh. Yay. So Josh actually finished dental school last year in May, and he came to live in Idaho for a year to practice rural dentistry while he waits to get into his oral surgery program. So, love you, honey. Thank you so much for letting me tell you all about that.
I always speak. That's my thing, I guess. I got that from her. I would have dressed a little nicer. Probably would have kept my scrubs on to look a little more official if I would have known. But I guess the only thing I have to say is it was an incredible thing. I'm honored, and I'm a crier.
You can clap for me too.
I have to say, my whole life, a lot of people don't understand this, don't appreciate it, but she has created so many lives and brought happiness to my family, and she gave me life. And no matter what anyone says, this is my mother. I love you.
Oh, goodness. Thank you, Ginger. And also, thank you, Josh. And isn't that just what you want, is a dentist who cries? It's early in his career. I'm sure that he'll build up to it. All right, we're going to get another slammer. That does remind me, though, of some friends of mine who had some help with their babies. She did carry the baby, but she wasn't able to nurse them or anything. She actually had twins, which is pretty common when you go through those ICF procedures. And she sent me a picture. She and her husband sent me a picture in the mail. And it was a very sweet picture, the two babies, one on each breast. But then you see a clear tube that's taped to each of her nipples, and the tube goes up above, and there is my friend, her husband, holding a bag of Soilac up above that's feeding the tubes. This was their Christmas card. All right. Okay, I believe this says Brian. So let's bring Brian up for a slam, please. It looks like it is the Brian that I thought it was.
So my wife and I have been married 20 years, and after 20 years, we've realized one thing. We are weird. And I'm like talking a level of weird that is kind of in its own range. So for some background, my wife is a transpersonal psychotherapist, and I run a neuroscience-based communication company. And when I tell that to people, sometimes they say it out loud, and sometimes you can just see it in their eyes, but they often say, "What is your house like?" Now, it's important to note we didn't always know we were weird. Like when people would ask, like, "What's your house like?" we legitimately believed it's like everyone else's. We have the same conversations everyone else had. And we didn't realize we were weird until some friends of ours helped us understand that we were weird by pressing the eject button. Now, the first instance of a friend helping us understand this with the eject button is when we were living in Colorado. Jamie was getting her counseling degree. I had just started working in the neuroscience field. And our friend Tom came to visit us for the weekend, and Tom made the poor choice now, if we think about it, of telling us he was thinking about a career change. So I naturally started asking him, "Well, do you think this is a passion or do you think this is an interest?" And Jamie would lean over and ask, like, "How does this decision feel in your body? And when you think about it, do you get emotional?" And then I would come back and say, "Well, what do you think the long-term implications on this? And do you get anxious when you think about it?" And I noticed somewhere in the conversation that Tom was sweating. And Tom's hands are shaking, and he goes, "Do you guys always talk like this?" So we let Tom go with a bit of trauma, and a few years later, we were driving up to go rafting, and Jamie had a couple of counseling friends with us in the truck, and a friend of ours who will remain nameless because he would never forgive me if I actually let his name be known in this situation, was an engineering friend of ours. And he was sitting in the back of the truck, and there's 5 of us, and so as normal conversations go when you have neuroscientists and and a couple of therapists in the truck, we started having a conversation about how do you know the difference between when you're in love and when you're in lust? And how do you know how to communicate an actual feeling to somebody when you love them or when it's just an infatuation? And I was, of course, looking at that and saying, well, I wonder if there's a piece of the brain that's removed if you can actually feel love or if it's actually just curiosity. And we're having this conversation, and I look into the rearview mirror, and our friend the engineer is curled up into a ball in the corner of the truck. And when somebody says, Nick, what do you think about this? He said, pass, 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 pass. And when we got out of the vehicle and I went and talked to him, he said while he was sitting in the corner, he was contemplating if it would hurt worse to have to answer the question he was asked or to jump out of the vehicle at 50 miles an hour. Now, the third instance of this came a little later when our friend Tasso had been around us for a while and preempted the conversation in the evening by saying, hey, are you guys going to make this awkward for me? And Jamie brings up the idea, well, Tasso, do you need a safe word? And this was a joke, like we were laughing, and Tasso says, yeah, let's use banana. And so we're, haha, banana, whatever. And we go on a little later, and my wife if we're in disagreement, we try to handle the disagreement in the moment. We don't often think that, like, this might affect the people around us, right? And so I had said something not thinking, and my wife said, do you understand how that makes me feel? And I said, well, do you know that wasn't my intention to make you feel like that? Well, why didn't you know that wasn't your intention? How did you think about it? Well, I don't know where it came from. It probably started earlier today when we were having lunch, and all of a sudden in the back of the vehicle, Tasso says, banana, 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 banana. And over the years, we've learned to identify when friends and family members and people over don't feel safe. And we can pull back the weirdness, and we've learned to ask them permission to have conversations that might be a little extra. And we've often joked about safe words, and they're used less and less. But the cool thing about understanding how uniquely weird you are is that even when relationships get tough, it makes it much harder to ever consider pressing the eject, because who else do you want to be with than the person who lets you show up as yourself?
Thanks, Brian. If you'd head over to that slammer booth, and we'll get, we have a question for you there. But you can use the safe word if you want. I think that if I'm in those situations where there's like a barrage of questions, I'm not too affected by it. I think I just kind of glaze over a little bit, and probably eventually I'd just be like, I'm sorry, I was thinking of Ryan Gosling. I still am. I'm still thinking about him. Last Thursday. Yeah. Okay. This, check the time here. This might be our last slammer tonight, but we'll see how it goes. Please welcome up Maddie. All right, Maddie, and if you would just go over just a little bit so I can use my shepherd crook. Everyone's been so good and conscientious about the time. I scared them, I think. There we go.
All right. If I get done early, I'll just talk about Ryan Gosling. Is it still skipping out? We good? Can you hear me? I know that the theme is Eject, and I'm going to have a little bathroom reference, but probably not what you think. Last night, I was sitting in my office last night, which is across the hall from the boys' bathroom, and my wife came in and knocked on the door, and our youngest son, Bennett, had been in there for a long time. And she said, Bennett, yeah? What are you doing? You've been in there for 20 minutes. You're never in the bathroom that long. Do you have a device in there? No. But it was kind of a high-pitched, no, And she said, I'm going to give you one more chance. Do you have a device in there? And he said, yes, I have a device. So the boys now, they're 11 and 13, and so they have to earn device time, so they'll sneak into the bathroom and act like they're going to the bathroom, and they're not. But it made me think of this story because when you are 9, 10, 11, you're kind of trying the truth out, right? you throw a little lie out there to see how it feels, see how the world takes it. And so my eject story is, I grew up in Texas. We played football. Everybody plays football in Texas. And when I was in the 7th grade, I thought I was a big deal because I went to a 1A school and almost no one else played, and there were 10 guys in my class. So it was hard not to get accepted on the football team. And so we had an away game, and this was a big event because my dad's best friend, Bill Dubose, who played football for the Texas Tech Red Raiders, was coming to the game to watch us play. And so we're at the game. I don't know if you've ever been to a 1A football game, but the stands are about 10 feet behind the field. So you can hear the parents talking, they can hear you. It's a real close environment. I wanted to put on a big show for Bill Dubose, and that did not happen. We were losing, we were playing really terribly, and I was getting upset. I was not a good sport back then. I was not a good loser for sure. And the other team kept scoring, score kept getting higher and higher, and I was very angry. And so it was towards the end of the game, and there was a kickoff. I'm running. My brother, who's also on the team, is running in front of me, and the other team, someone hits him in the back, and the ref is right there, and I say, "Did you not see him hit him in the back? You," and some other words came out too. And it's kind of debatable what those words were, but the ref threw his flag and blew his whistle, and I hustled over to get in my team to see if I could hide myself. And I don't know if you've ever seen a kid get ejected from a junior high football game, but there's a lot of commotion. Like, things start happening quickly. Ref goes over to the coaches. I'm squeezing tighter in the circle. He's talking. They're looking at the circle. They're talking. People are getting heated. Suddenly they come over and get me and escort me to the sideline. And so I'm sitting right in front of Bill Dubose, who played football, remember, for Texas Tech University. And this was supposed to be my big debut and show him what I could do. And instead, we're losing, and I've just got ejected from the game. And so I'm standing there with my head down, and my coach comes over, Coach Brown, and he's a short guy. He's as tall as me in the 7th grade. And he gets right in my face, and he says, "By the way, I liked Coach Brown a lot, and he liked me up until that time." And he gets right in my face, and he says, "Ref says you called him," I'll keep it family friendly. He says, "Ref says you called him an SOB. Is that true?" I said, "No, sir." And I could feel my face getting hot. And clearly all the parents can hear Coach Brown because they're sitting right behind us. So everyone knows what's going on. And I say, "No, sir." And I see Coach Brown, his eyes get a little bit wider. He looks back to the ref. He looks back to me. And then time kind of slows down. And I think, this is a defining moment for me. I've kind of thrown something up there to see how it feels in the world. But I've been a pretty good kid up to this point. I've told the truth. And I see, the next few moments are going to be real awkward. And I can see Coach Brown maybe going to take up for me, maybe getting on to the refs, maybe maybe Bill Dubose comes out of the stands. And it kind of stretches on into, this is a defining moment. This is, who am I going to be? I see the rest of my life. I see career choices, and am I going to hide behind lies, or am I going to be a man, even though I brought it on myself? And so he says, just like my wife last night, he says, "I'm going to ask you one more time." And what I said after that did determine the next few weeks. I did not get to play football in the next few games. I got to run 5 miles after every practice. And he said, "I'm going to ask you one more time. Did you call him an SOB?" And I said, "No, sir." I called him a stupid SOB.
Oh, hey, it's the last show of the season. Let's have one more slammer. Go ahead and bring that up. It probably will be no surprise to any of you here that I was not on a football team. And probably could have figured out a way to not be on the team, even in Texas. So my style of competition was the state spelling bee. And I wasn't ejected from it, but my mom was. Because the judges said each time we were spelling words, she was mouthing them. She probably wasn't spelling them right, though. That's the thing. All right, well, we spell this one Kristen. Kristen, come on up. You are clear in the back of the... Oh, no, you're going the other way. Kristen is going out the back door. I am guessing that's probably not Kristen at all. Is there someone... Oh, here's someone moving toward the stage. Hi, welcome back.
Hi, thank you. Okay, so the year is 2020, if anyone remembers anything about that year. The month, May. As was many people discovering new talents, a lot of them virtually, some of them in person, some of them were mountain biking. Outdoors, you could social distance. So I did that with some friends, and it wasn't a new sport, but it was one that I hadn't picked up a lot. I hadn't done many times. So one day after work, I made the plan to go mountain biking with some friends. And so I hopped off my Zoom call, I packed up my bike, and I went out for my ride. The next thing I knew, I woke up at my mom's house with some slippers on, some sweats on, and I was like, that doesn't track. That's not what you wear for mountain biking. So I realized it had been a few weeks since my mountain bike ride. Yeah, not so fun. And so I realized that I had actually been in the hospital for a few weeks, and I had ejected from my bicycle and had landed not so easily. So I have a lot of respect for mountain bike riders, and I would never do anything to forfeit your right to safety or anything like that, but it had just been a freak accident that happened. And so when I woke up at my mom's house, I was like, okay. I was newer into my career, and I had gotten a job that I really valued. And then obviously the pandemic had set in, and then I'd been landed with a life-changing injury. And so ultimately during that injury, I had hit the back of my head, which changed my vision. So it's called homonymous hemianopsia. It's a very long term. Even I can't say it apparently. But essentially, when you look down the tunnel of your vision, you are lacking the right side for me. And so I lost the right side of my vision. And that was during a worldwide pandemic when I had been a new graduate from college. I had just gotten a new job, and then everyone had gone to working remote, and that had happened. So it was a huge life-changing thing, but it made me realize what's really important in life, and ultimately had to eject me from my previous conceptions of what was important. And so I realized that really what's important is spending times with people that mean a lot to you, being healthy, making sure that you're showing those that you care about them. And yeah, I mean, it's crazy what life throws at you, but just always be on your toes. You never know what's gonna come. And it can eject you during the most unbelievable points, so watch out.
All right, let's see if we can bring down the screen again and get that text to give page back up one last time to check in with that for our 14th birthday. Again, that is story to 44321. Or you can also, if you want to get the t-shirt deal, you can do story sub to 44321. And then I have this little song that I do at the end of the show. This will be my last time doing it for the season. It's kind of, I think of it as sort of the, I'm so glad we had this time together. Those that are leaving right now, that's all you get. But, you know, we'll get to the parking garage. All right, we still have play, story going on here. whether maybe we're connected. I think we're connected to the internet. Anonymous and Kathy, thank you. We got over $5,000. Thank you for that. Thanks. All right, and Stephen, if you will cue that theme song, please. Stories come from the land as well as its people, and I want to acknowledge that we are on the traditional land of the Shoshone-Bannock people. Story Night is supported by public funding for the arts through the Idaho Commission on the Arts, the Idaho Legislature, and the National Endowment for the Arts. We also receive funding from the Boise City Department of Arts and History. You can still use your ticket for tonight's show and take it to the Modern Hotel and Bar for 15% off your check. All season they've had cocktails inspired by our themes. I'm not sure the Eject cocktail doesn't sit well, but anyway, you can listen to podcasts from all our shows or see the flagship shows on our YouTube channel, Story Boise. We also have a radio show. It's Story Night on Stray Theater. They're just concluding a radiothon. You can hear that on the Sunday before our live show from 5:30 to 6 on Radio Boise. Thank you to our crew, technical director, podcast, and video engineer, Stephen Baldessari. Thank you to the Boise choruses for being our special music tonight. Thank you to our interpreters, LaVona Andrew and Sierra McIver. Thank you to our volunteers and our volunteer coordinator, Natalia DiJosia. Thanks again to our board of directors. Thank you to Jump for hosting us again for the season and the crew here. Join us next for the summer season. And Story Night, Story good night. Beginning, middle, now at the end. Authentic, inspiring, spontaneous. So thank you. You shared your stories and you really listened. I may have come here as a stranger, but now I'm leaving as a friend. And so the stories never end. See you in the summer.